Parshas Devorim Shabbos Chazon, Tavshin Ayin Beis. I want to welcome everybody to the Shiur here again. Hope everybody's enjoying their dinner here tonight, and now we'll do a little Torah also. The pasuk says in Parshas Devorim, this week's parsha, Ki Hashem Elekecha Veirachecha B'chol Ma'aseh Yadecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives you a bracha B'chol Ma'aseh Yadecha. The pasuk continues, Yoda Lechtecha Es HaMidbar HaGadol Hazeh Zeh Aboim Shana. Kadosh Baruch Hu is with you 40 years in the Midbar. Hashem Elekecha Imach. All 40 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. Lo chasarta davar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. You're not missing anything. You have everything you need. That's Pashat Shat in the pasuk. So Nesiv Shalom brings down the Koshnitz Magid, says in his Sefer Avodas Yisrael, and I must give a thank you to the Lakewood Scoop now, because last week I said also a Sefer Avodas Yisrael from the Koshnitz Magid. Somebody called me up this week from Eretz Yisrael, and he told me he saw the share and he had a question on the Sefer Avodas Yisrael on the Koshnitz Magid that I said last week. He called me up from Eretz Yisrael and he told me, go out and get the Sefer. You have to see the piece inside. I don't know if he works for the company that puts out the Sefer or not, but I went, I bought the Sefer, and I must give him a thank you when he sees this. If he sees this before Shabbos, I'd like to thank my good friend in Eretz Yisrael, now he's my good friend for sure, for enlightening me to Sefer Avodas Yisrael, beautiful Sefer from the Koshnitz Magid. And now we're going to say another word from the Koshnitz Magid. Talk to Koshnitz Magid that there's a reason that this pasuk that we just mentioned is always read. We read this pasuk in the Torah during the 9 days. This year it happens to come out. Shabbos is Tisha B'Av, and unless Mashiach comes in a very big hurry, we're still going to have a Tisha B'Av, and then we're going to have a fast of Tisha B'Av on Sunday. But this pasuk of the Torah is always read during the 9 days. And what is the Midbar HaGadol, this great vast Midbar referring to, Zok the Koshnitz Magid? This Midbar HaGadol in the pasuk represents the dark times and the Goliath that Klal Yisrael goes through. When the pasuk says HaMidbar HaGadol, it's referring to the dark times that anybody in Klal Yisrael, that any Yid goes through. And what is it telling us? It's telling us about any time a person goes through a hard time in his life, Hashem Elekecha Imach. If you always feel and you're always cognizant, you're always conscious of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being with you, then Lo chasarta davar. You know at the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of you. If you always think, you have on your mind, that I'm not in this alone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with me, Lo chasarta davar. And that's how he says, Shad in this pasuk. Zok the Nesiv Shalom. The Nesiv Shalom says that really the pasuk is telling us how every person is supposed to behave when everything's not going exactly, perfectly. He thinks in his life, this is how a person should behave. Always be mamin that nothing that happens to you in your life happens by chance. Everything is always, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always there with you. And if you have that emunah, Zok Nesiv Shalom, that nothing happens by chance and everything is just on the way, that things are going to get better, Lo chasarta davar. At the end of the day, you're not going to be missing anything. You're going to have exactly what you need and what you're supposed to have. And this Be'em Zok Nesiv Shalom is what gives Klal Yisrael the koyach to still be standing here. Unbelievably, the Klal Yisrael is still standing here after we've been through. We're in the fourth of long Golus. We're in a Dalet Goliath we went through. Klal Yisrael went through the Holocaust, pogroms, wars, and much more throughout the history. Crusades go back hundreds of years, 1,000, 2,000 years. The Klal Yisrael has been through so much, but because we believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem Elekecha Imach, that is the reason why today, once again, we're still building up. We're a couple of days away. We're going to see, Mirz Hashem, close to 100,000 Yidden coming together to honor the Torah. I'm thinking to myself, I can't remember when the last time in history that it was possible that 100,000 Shomer Torah mitzvahs got together to celebrate Torah. And we just 70 years ago, Klal Yisrael went through a Holocaust, and they've gone through so much. In Goliath, they were in Goliath But Hashem Elokecha imach, we remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always with us and never lets us down. That is the secret to our survival. And this be'emes is the same for every Yochid also. Chazal tell us, the Gemara in Masechta Yuma, Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis says that by the time of the Churban, when the enemies entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they came during the Churban, right? They came to the Kodesh HaKadoshim and they saw that the Keruvim were holding each other. At that moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was showing His love for Klal Yisrael. So we know, the truth is we know that the Keruvim were really an indication of how Klal Yisrael was acting. Bizman she'osim ritzayna shel makom, when Klal Yisrael was doing the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the Keruvim, it says, U'ma'urin zeh b'zeh. Aber bizman sheloi, they weren't, Chas v'shalom, they weren't doing the Ratzon HaMakom, then it wasn't that way by the Keruvim. However, by the time of the Churban, it was different. Why was it different? Obviously, by the time of the Churban, the Yidden were not doing the Ratzon Hashem. Why was it different? That when they came into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they saw that the Keruvim were holding each other? Zok the Nesiva Shalom, that the Teretz is, because right at that moment of the Churban, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show Klal Yisrael that the destruction that's going on right now, this destruction is an external destruction. That the fact that we are bonim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the fact that we're HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children, that never changes. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show it just at that moment. But how do we understand showing it just at that moment? So the Nesiva Shalom gives a mashal. He says sometimes, let's say a child falls ill. A child is ill and he needs surgery. But there's one thing. The surgeon happens to be, the surgeon who could perform this surgery is the father of the child. Avad, it hurts the surgeon, the father of the child, it hurts him tremendously to do the surgery. Yet, the father obviously does it. Why does he do the surgery? Because he loves his son. Because if he doesn't do the surgery, the son is going to get more sick, and Chas v'shalom, who knows what's going to happen to the child. So the father is the surgeon, and it hurts him to do it, but because he loves his son, he goes ahead and does it. He has no choice in the matter. And at that moment, when the father is performing the surgery, at that moment, that's when the greatest love for the child is being shown. That's the highest level of love. Zok Nesiva Shalom, that is the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was showing to Klal Yisrael b'shas the Churban. It was the great love of Bonim Atem Lashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for reasons that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu really knows, the Churban, there was Sinas Chinam, there were a lot of things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't take anymore that was going on by Klal Yisrael. But the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to do that surgery, he was showing great love to Klal Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the father, and the father had to perform the surgery. Bonim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. And at that time, Dafka, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us, at that time, the Keruvim had to be holding each other because it was showing the great love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to Klal Yisrael at that moment. In this week's Haftarah, we say Shabbos. The reason we call it Shabbos Chazon is because the Haftarah begins Chazon Yeshayahu. It's a Nevius of Yeshaya, and the pasuk says, the pasuk is saying what Klal Yisrael did, and right at the beginning of Haftarah, it uses a lashon of Bonim Mashchisim, that they were mashchis in the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what's the word attached to mashchisim? Bonim. Even at that time, Zok Nesiva Shalom, the Raya from the words from the Navi Yeshaya, Bonim Mashchisim, tells us that even when they're being mashchis Chas v'shalom, they're still called Bonim. Nesiva Shalom adds that the only time, and we see this from the pasuk that we mentioned, the only time that a Yid feels chosar to davar, that you're missing something, is only when he disconnects from Hashem. When a Yid is connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he'll always feel, when he feels that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with him, the pasuk says in Tehillim, Gam ki elech begeit salmoves, even when I go right in the valley of death, la'iraro, I'm not afraid of any bad. Why? Ki ata imadi. When a Yid knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with him, and even when he goes through the hardest times in his life, and things are not exactly good, la'irara ki ata imadi, that this dveikus b'Hashem is what gives us the koyach to move on. And that's be'emes what gives us the koyach to continue on in this Golus. This is how we survived Golus. We were in the Midbar for 40 years. And because of Hashem Elokecha Imach, Lo Chasarta Davar. And that continues on, and this Golus. And this is the way to make it through the harder times in life, to always know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is at our side. And that's how we continue on. So we come now to a day or two before Tisha B'Av, and we come now we're in Chodesh Av, in the 9 days, the Yetzer Hara strengthens himself. You think we have to be mechazik each other, we have to be mechazik ourselves, but the Yetzer Hara knows that we want to be mechazik each other, and we want to be mechazik ourselves. And he fights us on a double front. First of all, he goes against what we want to do from this pasuk. This Hashem Elokecha Imach, the Yetzer Hara wants at all costs that a Yid should be separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That he should forget HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he should forget that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with him. Yet we can't forget the other thing that the Yetzer Hara wants. The Yetzer Hara wants that the reason we're in Golus, and the reason the Bayis Sheni was Nechrav, the Yetzer Hara wants much more than anything else that at all costs, not only there should be period between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael, but the Yetzer Hara wants very, very much that there should be period between one Yid and the other. Because if you didn't get together, if there's Avos Yisrael, and they stop looking at the bad side of each other, and when you didn't get together, there is no telling what heights they can reach. And that's what the Yetzer Hara wants. Never let the Yidden always have, when it's going to come the time for some achdus, no, let's always have machloikis. We say, the Maimer Chazal, Kol shaloi nivne beis hamikdash biyamav, ki'ilu nechrav biyamav. We know that if the Beis HaMikdash is not built in the next 2 days, it's not shot that 2,000 years ago our ancestors did something that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. If it's not built this week, if it's not built now, ki'ilu nechrav b'yamav. We have to look at it as if we are living in the generation that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. If we don't straighten out tzinas chinam enough in the next 2 days that there's a binyan Beis HaMikdash, we each have to feel that this Tisha B'Av, we caused it. We caused that the Beis HaMikdash should be Nechrav. Notice we haven't understood yet what Achdus is. We haven't understood that Bonim Atem Hashem Elokeichem. We want the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Bonim Atem means we're all children. Not that one person is a child of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, but the other person is not good enough. He's not from enough for us. He's not exactly like us. No, Bonim means that everybody's a child. Everybody's a child from the same father. We want Kirachem of Abanim. We want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to treat us as his children. We want him to treat us as a father would. We all have to be his children. Just to end off, I want to mention that today was the Yortzeit. Today, Zayin Av is the Yortzeit of the Nesiv Shalom. The Nesiv Shalom was a Yid. We speak so much every week about Avos Yisrael, about Avos Hashem, about loving another Yid, always looking at the good side of Yidin, Avos Chinam, all these kind of things. And Nesiv Shalom was a Yid who lived, was personified, was a Yid who loved everybody. Nesiv Shalom, they say that his name was Rav Shalom Noach, but they say Nesiv Shalom, the reason why his Svarim are named Nesiv Shalom also, and I know somebody that once, I asked somebody to ask the Nesiv Shalom's son, today's Rebbe once, so we once discussing why it is that the Svarim and Nesiv Shalom all over the world now, Hasidim, non-Hasidim, and wherever you go in the world today, people, there are shiur and they're learning, why does the Nesiv Shalom have tremendous hatzlacha? So he went. I asked him the question, when next time he was in Eretz Yisrael, he went to today's Slon Merev and he asked him the question, why was your father Zoicha? Many people write Svarim, why was he Zoicha to such Siyata D'Shmai? He says, you know why? Because no matter what happened in Eretz Yisrael, and no matter what politics there was, and no matter what people said to him, he never answered back. B'chol Nesivosei Shalom. Everything was always Shalom first. Never to be a machlokes, never to have an argument with other people, never to say anything bad about anybody else. Let's hope that the Taka should be a schus for all of us, Nesiv Shalom, that we should all learn the lessons of Nesiv Shalom. Sai for Avos Chaverim, Avos Yisrael. We said Avos Yisrael is what what brings us to Avos Hashem. We should Taka be Zoicha that hopefully, if not in the next 2 days, if we still have to fast to see a Tisha B'Av, hopefully shortly thereafter, we should all be Zoicha to be Makabel Pnei Mashiach, and that if Emir Hashem, when Mashiach comes, we're looking for a place next year. Emir Hashem will have a place in Yerushalayim, and then next year in Av that we could say the Shiur also.